A key finding from study after study is that a simple reform, changing the date of local elections to make them coincide with higher level elections, can lead to more than double voter turnout. The context for this reform is a really long-standing finding that voter participation in local elections is shockingly low. Furthermore, there's a cost savings that comes from reducing just the number of elections that are held. It actually is costly to hold election after election and to staff those election facilities. There's no disagreement on the question of the current low level of turnout, and the question is what to do about it. And one argument that's sometimes made in favor of these off-cycle local elections is that although voter turnout is relatively low, the people who do turn out tend to be amongst the most informed and engaged citizens. There's some truth to that argument, but also it's inherently undemocratic. You seldom hear anyone argue that we should make it more difficult to vote in presidential elections, for example, so that only the most dedicated people will vote. We tend to try to make it easier for people to vote. And there's a concern that in these off-cycle elections, where voter turnout is so low, that special interest groups will be disproportionately influential. If that were true, then you would think by changing the timing of the election and increasing the representativeness of the electorate, that you would see policy move back in a more general interest direction, or that you would see big changes in policy that result. We don't tend to see big changes in policy that result from the changing in the timing of elections, so I think that calls into the question. The hypothesis is that special interests are dominating these off-cycle elections. What the evidence seems to show is there isn't a big reduction in the quality of accountability. That is to say, when we look at school district members, school board members who are elected on off-cycle versus on-cycle elections, it tends to be those that are coming from synced elections. There's evidence that they have more consistent preferences that match the voters who elect them. So there doesn't seem to be a sacrifice in accountability that comes about when we move elections to on-cycle and maybe attract some less informed voters. The conclusions that we can draw, I think, with great certainty is that it's cost-saving, it leads almost certainly to a dramatic increase in turnout, and there don't seem to be huge downsides in terms of accountability or policy.